Welcome to Nasdaq TradeTalks, where we meet with the top thought leaders and strategists in emerging technologies, digital assets, a regulatory landscape, and capital markets. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, and joining me on the desk at the Nasdaq Market Site, we have Dr. Merav Ozair. She's a global leading emerging technologies expert, as well as Karan, Yadav, North American CEO of Trifork, and we're here to discuss spatial computing, how it differs from other technologies and where the enterprise opportunities are. Merav, it's great to see you as always. Karan, welcome to the show. Let's talk about spatial computing. What is it, and how does it differ from other technologies?
Yeah, I think the other terminologies that have been used in the past for spatial computing is augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, extended reality. I think spatial computing is a different take on that, simply because it tries to blend your physical and your computing worlds together. And I think it kind of enables itself for very, very different ideas and possibilities. So we are super excited about it. We've been working with a lot of customers, including Porsche, that we'll talk about. But we think that it has a massive potential in the enterprise, and it has a huge potential of being the primary computing device for all of us in the near future.
So Merav, it sounds like it's almost virtual reality. So this isn't a brand new technology.
It's not a brand new technology. I mean, for a current point, in how what the definition is, there are different definitions out there. I mean, Apple has one, Amazon has one, the academics have. I mean, everyone has, but the bottom line is that it's supposed to merge the virtual space with the physical space seamlessly. That's the bottom line. I mean, if I don't want to go into the details. So there are different takes on that, but some people will say that AR, VR, MX, I mean, all of those technologies are basically subsets of what spatial computing is, and you can integrate all of them to create, really the advanced solution. But it's not like one or the other. They're all subsets of what that is. But the bottom line is like you're trying to really integrate seamlessly, as if you walking into a virtual space, like just imagine that we're just going to walk in a virtual space seamlessly. That's the idea.
So what's the current use case, like the Apple or the Meta goggles? Is that something that would be associated with spatial computing?
I mean, Karan can speak more about the Vision Pro, but this is one, which was intentionally, of course, more consumer product related. I mean, you have that. You have the Quest of Meta's Quest. You have the glasses, the smart glasses, the Ray-Ban smart glasses, which is more AR, to be more exact. But that's one aspect of it, which is the type of the goggles or the glasses. But on top of that, using that, you can think about the enterprise uses which are already happening. For example, NASA. NASA is using it already, has been using it for years, in fact. For one, it was the simulation that helps astronauts for the training. That is one. The other one is that the rover, the robot that they sent over there, has the way that they navigate it is with VR and the Xbox technologies that this is how they navigate that. They get all this information that is coming from the rover that they collected via AI and all. So there's also AI, but also using the VR in order to analyze it in 3D. So for the scientists and the engineering, all the understanding the correlation and the relationship of all this information that's coming from Mars in 3D is much more intense than just the 2D that we have.
So Karan, you have noted here that we need a paradigm shift in terms of how we think about spatial computing. That's going to be driven by industry more so than consumer demand.
Yes. So true. Let's kind of look at how computing is done today. Right? We've been forced into this two-dimensional world, which is pixel constrained, and have to use a mouse and a keyboard, which is not natural, right? If a fairly natural way of using computing is as you are doing your day-to-day work hands-free, you're able to actually interact more fluidly with it. And the moment you're able to do that, it unlocks a lot of different use cases in the enterprise. And I'll come back to consumer because I think consumer is relevant but has some time before it gets there. We believe that a significant amount of use cases will be redefined with spatial computing. whether you're a technician working on an asset, trying to fix it, and need to understand how do I actually fix this asset, or you're doing training for your pilots or your crew members or your shop floor workers to make them aware of how the real world environment might be. So we are seeing discussions and traction across all different industries. So the ideas are more horizontal if you think about it than vertical, but it is a paradigm shift because we think if you look at use case after use case, there's just significant opportunity on how Apple Vision Pro and of course specifically spatial computing can impact those use cases.
So this is a very elementary question. Would you say spatial computing is the confluence of all these technologies under one umbrella, or is it its own distinct category of emerging technologies?
So I think it's just the redefinition of existing technologies that you look at, right? You can call it augmented reality, virtual reality. Some companies prefer to call it one or the other, or mixed reality, but really we prefer this definition because it's all encompassing, right? Because how are you using your space in front of you, your natural physical space, and you're actually doing your work and computing along with it. So I'd say it's not much of a shift from a technology standpoint, more of a shift from a thinking standpoint. And the moment you start thinking about it, you go away from very limited gaming first or high-end technology first, like NASA use cases, into what can I give my technician? What can I give my shop floor worker? What can I give my supervisor? What can I give my surgeon and an anesthesiologist? I think those all become possible when you start thinking this from a fairly different paradigm.
To elaborate on that, if you think, I mean, spatial computing, in order for that to really exist and work, you need hardware, you need the software.
So what are the challenges associated with that?
Yeah, but first let's understand, we need, so you have the hardware, which is other the goggles, the smart glasses, and all of that. And the chips, of course, that goes into this. You have also the software, which is whether it's vision, AI, Gen AI, all the other edge computing and all of that. And you have the data, because there's a lot of data that goes into that. Even to train, you need data for that. If you want to help a technician, you need the data. So all of this has to work in real time.
Yeah.
And it's not, okay, after the fact, because if you want to help, a technician and they want to, fix something right away, or you now analyzing, weather or healthcare, information, it has to be real time. So you need the connectivity to be in real time. You need, of course, the software to do all the analysis, whether it's Gen AI or AI or all other computing that you need for that, and the analytics. And the hardware, that to sustain all of this computation, and also the vision that comes with it. So there's a lot of, technologies. If you think about it, not just one technology in order to create the solution.
Right.
There are many technologies. Just think about, if you just need the data, the storage, after you use it, how to get in the API, the connectivity, the interconnectivity, the hardware that technologies that you need for the hardware, the technologies that you need for the software. So there's so many technologies, and eventually you have a solution.
Right. So let's talk about a solution to contextualize this a bit with a project that Trifork is working on with Porsche.
So there are a couple of scenarios we're working with Porsche, and Porsche is really truly an innovative customer of ours. So the first idea they had was, you walk into a Porsche showroom, for example, and you want to see the car that you like in a certain color, right? Of course, quite possible that they don't have that color. How can you create an experience that really allows you to see and visualize that car in as close to a reality as possible? And that's a huge need for Porsche, because it's an experiential product, and when you have to buy.
And you also expect that from a higher end brand as well, the experiential part of it.
Absolutely. And then when you almost are walking into the car, you're opening the door as you would open a natural door of a physical car, and you're sitting down on your driver's seat, and you're actually making configurations of the seats, of heads-up display, of capabilities that you want inside the dashboard. That reimagines how you would potentially configure a car. Typically, you do it on the web, and you don't get that experience. But so spatial computing is going to really rethink how you interact with emotionally with brands, and I think Porsche is a perfect representation of that. but Porsche is such a such a large and an important company in the world of manufacturing. They're big manufacturing innovators as well. So we're working with their manufacturing organization to actually do shop floor training for their employees. How can they actually drive better retention for new employees, because not a well-trained employee is not doesn't feel settled. And then we have the third use case on a race engineer. How can, when the Porsche goes for Le Mans, how can a race engineer who has like 16 different monitors in front of them absorb data more fluidly and take action on it? So lots of great use cases.
I want to bring this up to you, Merav. So it sounds not only for the higher end brands, but what you can do in terms of healthcare, to Karan's point before, or education, or even therapeutic, physical or mental.
Exactly.
My question is to you. You know this is going to come up. What about data privacy? What about cyber? What about securing the safety of this? Because you could think of some Terminator scenarios that could go a little bit haywire with this.
And with this, the amount of data and the sensitive data that you can gather going to healthcare, brain waves, biometric, it's very, very, very personal. I mean, and if it falls into the malicious hands, I mean, there's something terrible can happen. I mean, it can harm not just the individual, a country. So it's very, very sensitive. Now, we have to think about ways that the data should be encrypted. This is one way that, this access to the data, especially if we're talking about healthcare and kids, if you're dealing with kids, this is very, very, very sensitive. So you have to figure out how you protect them and making sure that the privacy is protected, all this sensitive data. Even for Porsche, I mean, they don't want this information to fall to some, competitors, right? They need, to find ways, to protect them.
Their IP and
the IP, so probably through, encryption or something of that sort. And of course, the cybersecurity issue, you don't want any attack into that data, because remember, the data lives somewhere in the cloud. And
so, but that would fall under governance policies that you have in place.
I don't think you need to reinvent the regulations for that, because data is data.
But even internal,
privacy,
governance policies.
Right, exactly. But maybe now it's getting like to a higher degree, because the data that you collect is much more sensitive than just numeric data.
Yeah.
I mean, it's especially in with Porsche, the design, it's all kind of nuances. That it's not just numeric data, and so the IP is there. So because of the sensitivity and the significance of this data, the protection, I think, now gets a higher level.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting. There's certain moments in technology history where it's going to change. And I remember when the iPad was first introduced, and my first thought was, wow, MRIs and sonograms can be shared instantly. It's going to be a game changer. Now, when you hear about technology that can be leveraged with spatial computing and the other emerging technologies, what it can do to advance medical care more efficient, advancing the actual practice of medical care, democratizing it. This could change a healthcare system potentially.
We are most bullish about healthcare as an industry in terms of what it can do, what this particular technology can do, right? It's, right from how the equipment is made that is used in the world of healthcare, to how procedures are done, to how operating room theaters could potentially look like, to what post-operative care might look like. And I think the way the customers are thinking about it is actually quite fascinating. So I couldn't agree with you more. I think iPad was a starting point of the democratization process. This basically takes it to the new level, because you are now, imagine the same iPad-like of experience, but in a more realistic scenario.
I mean, did you have that kind of feeling too? Wow, we'll be able to access records almost immediately and be able to share them on a portable device.
It's more than just sharing records.
Right.
I mean, you can share, take like a shared visual space, and you have the collaboration of maybe a surgeon that.
So like the next iteration of that, yeah.
So let's say a surgeon that is in San Francisco, but the patient is in New York, and you need an immediate help and assistance. So how would they see and know how to guide you? So if you go, to that virtual space, and so you have this collaboration, and the assistant is immediate, and this surgeon doesn't have to fly and 6-7 hours, and if especially if it's an emergency. So all of these situations, not just the training, but actually, helping in situations.
Improving patient. I mean, imagine what it could do for post-op therapy, or if you're a paraplegic or have spinal conditions.
Right.
Perhaps that could be part of the recovery or the path to getting back movement and feeling by using this as part of your therapy. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, I think, it will help all those disabilities. People with disabilities also feel like very introverted. They not want to do things. I mean, they feel very limited. But in this, virtual space, they can be anything. They can do anything. They can learn. They feel like they can learn everything that they want. So I think it really will help. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can think about the benefits. I mean, it's not just the gaming, and I don't want to think about the
because it's kind of always associated with that, the metaverse and all.
Yeah, and all of that. But let's think about the education aspect of it. The disabilities, how you can help people. The research completely can go to a different level.
Well, let's cover education for a moment here. Does the industry have the skill set for these new technologies that are coming on board? Or is it reskilling?
Yeah. There's always a lag.
Right.
The new technology shows up and the rest of the world tries to catch up. I think if you think about Apple as an organization, as a platform that's pretty ubiquitous, whether it's healthcare or education, what we believe is that reskilling from one part of the Apple platform to the next part of the Apple platform is not that hard.
Right.
This now makes it a lot more possible to actually make it, the adoption to be much faster and much more accelerated than it would have been in any other platform. So yes, I think there is a gap, but I'm quite sure this gap will not exist for too long, simply because if I'm a developer writing an app on iOS, I can very easily kind of reskill myself to write my app on Vision OS and actually make it possible on Spatial.
And Merav, to wrap up here, it's just, I mean, you and I have been covering, I've been covering you for 2 years. Look at how much we have covered in just 2 years and how the technologies have evolved. I mean, before I met you, we weren't even discussing Gen AI. And look at where we are. I mean, who knows what the conversation is going to be like 2 years from now?
I don't know.
It's fascinating.
It will be like, some technology that we haven't really talked about yet.
Yeah,
or, or a combination of all that it will take us to the next level. I mean, I always say, imagine, and then technology follows. So just let yourself imagine what you want to do, what you want to be.
Set the date. There's a story behind that too. But really appreciate everyone's insight, fascinating content, and thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.